Okay. The good news is everyone in this room has built with Filecoin and understands the ins and outs and pains of FVM, which is what we would like to discuss today. Um, so in the morning we had a session around scaling decentralized storage, and we had those experts come in and tell us. And yeah, some of you participated. Thank you so much. Great input. Now we're going to talk about the UX DX wishlist for a Filecoin dApp dev. And I know Sneha, Ape, you guys have built dApps yourselves with FVM. Matt, you've obviously done a ton of it. And then Arseni, I know you're more on the tooling side, but you've definitely interacted. And Ava, you know all the integrations that we need. And also we're sourcing for more ideas for more integrations. So I'm going to keep it super open here. What I hope to get to is to understand from this crowd what are some of the essential developer journeys that we should have, because we did hear earlier on for new developers onboarding to Filecoin that it is probably not very clear most of the time. It would be really helpful to get a sense of feedback on what are the key journeys that we should be targeting. And then secondly, what are some of the key UX tooling that you feel is not available today, or DX tooling that is not available today that you would love to see integrated onto Filecoin. And if you can give a reason why, that would be really great too. So yeah, open to the floor. Anyone have any suggestions they want to give? Like really, if you like, you want to use, I don't know, oracles, are Oracle support enough? Is there anything else that you would love to see that you don't have today? Yes.
Actually, that's quite interesting because we at Protofire we provide number of integrations to like the Oracle solutions, for example, right, and to the GnosiSafe as the great example that we were discussing with some of the other guys here, right? So the problem with Filecoin is that actually, like it's not fully backward compatible with what like the Ethereum has, so we can't like use just as simple as like we use the same library and everything. We have to adapt some of the calls, and we have to really go through the pain to deploy the very same solutions. It's the compatibility have advantage greatly in this recent year, I would say, like, yeah. But at the very same time, and the road is still so far. I know that there was a changes like in the recent versions 1.27 something of Lotus about like whether like, for example, the API RPC calls should return the result information, which actually some of the SDKs, they rely on the fact that the field of return of result is going to be returned and everything, and having these features would allow greater amount of integrators to integrate with Filecoin, and yeah.
Okay. Do you have any, aside from API RPC call results, do you have any other examples of not fully backward compatible Ethereum tooling?
There was like this legacy transactions thing that was required to deploy the GnosiSafe, and essentially when we initially like because right now we have over 50 GnosiSafe deployments over different chains, and we were looking to deploy it over the Filecoin. We were stuck over this, and like okay, yeah, can we overcome this? Yes, we can, but it's going to require like way more time to do it, right? So.
Regarding legacy transactions, I think that's resolved now.
I think
right?
it's. I think it is. I was saying like about like the example that we faced some time ago, right?
Fair. Yeah. Okay. Any other?
Actually, I would like to add on this. Means people usually compare Filecoin FVM with the EVM, but they forget the point that it is EVM compatible, not exactly EVM. So I would like the documentation to focus more on the consensus part of the protocol, because yeah, it's really important to understand why the finality in Filecoin takes as long as it takes, and yeah, how the block headers work differently from the Ethereum ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah, just talking about finality, do we know what the status is of the fast finality stuff? Is that
September.
September? Okay. Because one of the things, and yes, used to be working on FEM stuff and now Arbitrum, so slightly different viewpoint here, but it's kind of like how much of a sort of, for want of a better word, fight do we want to get in from the FEM standpoint against other EVM chains that are more established at doing general EVM stuff? Like we still need to try and work out what our USP is. I mean, storage, yeah, but we're still not there yet in terms of actually getting storage from the EVM. Now, I know there's, I think, some other, project storage and things like that happening that might be there, but I think that's the bit that's still missing from a developer point of view. Why would I deploy to FEM like today? Is still, I think, it's a bit of an unknown.
Yeah, that's an ongoing discussion, by the way, around when we think about EVM compatibility and where we are today. Like, is it worth us fighting the fight to achieve full EVM compatibility versus us keeping up, at a sufficient level with EVM compatibility with the EIP upgrades and all, but focusing on what more our USP is, which is storage, and then possibly even the WASM native actors that we were planning to have, but did not get enough of a signal from the community to prioritize at this point. So that's something that we're in discussion on. Yeah.
I think when it comes to like builders in general, it might be good to think about what kind of builders you're targeting and trying to attract. Because Filecoin is a really complicated protocol compared to other chains. So why are the builders here? What do you want out of them? Like a lot of the hackathons are for like university students, trying things out. And then I know you guys had a personas research project, and sort of you have these different profiles of like one hackathon participant just wants to like maybe eventually get a job in Web3, et cetera. So like, or others are like maybe founders, and we're trying to attract, I think, in this protocol like a sort of a generation of founders who can build because Filecoin is like a thin protocol for storage, who can build like higher level like startups that build like longer term like middleware that can like last, become a company, and like basically that's what we want, right, in our funnel. Yeah. So I'm trying to think about like how can we attract those kind of developers more?
Yeah.
And what is it we need to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And like even answering this, so I wonder too, answering this like EVM compatibility question, whether it's important for that to happen, for us to attract teams to want to build on us, like mature teams to build on us. As in, versus like, for example, teams like Storacha that are like natively born from the Filecoin ecosystem that would be willing to work through a less EVM compatible chain and go through all the hurdles to then deploy their service. How can we attract more of such teams, or will we always have teams within the PL ecosystem?
Right. I mean, another way to look at it is like, we're not, I think, I remember ETH Global gave us this feedback. We're not pitching like the value proposition of Filecoin more, like Matt just said. Like we're not putting it front and center. And that's things like the verified storage, like where do you actually see it in the UX? Mm-hmm. Like where is it? Like Arweave, in Mirror, at the bottom of a Mirror blog post, sometimes you can see like Arweave hash and everything, and people love that, right? So things like that, maybe, like we don't have enough of the UX that's actually selling the value proposition of Filecoin. And so maybe that's something to brainstorm about. Like, yeah, what is the point of, and then things like the Filecoin Solidity library, like you can read the data, but then what about, like, what are you supposed to do with that? And like brainstorming more about sort of storage workflows. And you guys had some tutorials and cookbooks, but it'd be nice to not do that in just by ourselves and like figure out how to do that more in a community setting that's sort of organic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the hackathons aren't attracting, like, maybe you can have like a sort of a bounty to just build tutorials or something to start, so that people get their feet wet. And yeah, I don't know.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
Like it'd be nice to have more blog posts and things like that. Like Nandit, who's the founder of Lighthouse, originally it was Vasa who handed it off to Nandit because Vasa wanted to go finish university. But like he started out by just exploring Filecoin and writing a blog post, and like that's how you start getting developers more interested in the deeper layers of the protocol. So like bounding, things like that, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we currently have like a funnel problem just because our protocol is so hard. It's because it's stacked up against like other chains. It just doesn't look as fun.
Yeah, I think that the technical barrier to entry is very real. Yeah. I actually really like the idea of like building community tutorials to see what people are actually interested in, or like maybe new ways of approaching it, rather than having us, people that have been used to the Filecoin protocol, writing those instead. Yeah. Do you know of any like good, I don't know, like good communities that we could go into to do something like that?
No, I'd have to think about it more. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Is there anything else anyone wants to raise for this? Yes, Matt.
Yeah, again, and I think we've had this discussion before, but sort of for the record, the ecosystem components, right? It's like you go to deploy, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, where's the Chainlink oracles or the bridges or the dexes or that kind of thing?" We've, started to get them there, but they're still, I think, a way off what people might be used to on other networks, and they're not on things like, test nets, for example, at least to that degree. So when you're trying to develop things, it can be a little harder doing that on Filecoin. And again, that comes down to your question of, is that a fight we want to fight? Seems like that's a lot of effort to try and get that maintained. I know that, Ava, you've worked a lot, sort of partnerships with some of these people to try and get these projects on board. And that's like a lot of effort to get them on there and probably to maintain them. It's kind of like, is that the fight we still want to keep going down? Because I fear at the moment we're sort of halfway there, which means a lot of effort, but actually not necessarily a fully actually functioning system for people. So I think that's a decision that maybe we need to decide on.
But you didn't need all of that just to build CryptoKitties, right? A lot of this like Chainlink and stuff like didn't necessarily exist back then, in the way it does now. So like we need the CryptoKitties kind of thing first.
It's not 2017 anymore.
That's true too. But that's the problem. I feel like it's like we're trying to function in a 2024 Web3 context, but our chain is still early.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit afraid that this might be also a bit of a situation where it might be 2080 problem, right? When we think that we are nearly the point when we can do that, but then the rest 20% of what we need to do is actually 80% of efforts that might take. And like, that's a very good question. If we really still like need these solutions and we want to go further. Yeah, exactly. Like managing expectations is very important for the dApps and everything, so they can understand whether they are going to have these solutions and or not, or maybe like have some alternative solutions that will be more native to the Filecoin and more like reusing the engine rather than trying to adapt the engine to what it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about it because it's also a question we haven't resolved ourselves. I mean, we have this discussion with other teams. I recently had a chat with Phil Oz. Same question came up. Yeah, I don't know what's the best way for us to reach that decision.
Well, I mean, with just DeFi, like we have a unique ecosystem, right? We have an island economy of like a few thousand storage providers, and like they have collateral needs and all that, and like so there's an interesting opportunity there for interesting DeFi startups to come and build something different from the rest of the EVM community. So maybe just trying to figure out like what's unique to Filecoin still, and just keep trying to
Yeah.
Instead of this like this weird ecosystem we have in Web3 where now we have all these startups focusing on developer tooling and they're just asking chain foundations for funding. I think that's a little weird. Like we don't need a chain link just to get more devs. That's not necessarily how it works. So I don't know.
Yeah, fair points. Okay, yeah, no, that's, thank you everyone for like good insights. Yeah, no, this is a really good question to ask. Like, it's not like I'm stuck on this question, but it's a really good question we should figure out in the coming months or year. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for like your inputs.